All right, hello, and welcome to Engineering Ethics at NJIT. My name is Daniel Estrada, and I'll be your instructor this semester. This is the Syllabus Policies video, where I will talk about all the policies in the syllabus. I'm recording this video and updating it for the spring of 2022, and it should apply to all 2022 classes. So in this video, I'll talk about all of the policies in the syllabus, the assignment structure and expectations, the grading policies, the late policy, the presentations and the research project, the ethics report at the end of the semester, the peer review, extra credit assignments. I will also say a little bit about the plagiarism policy, but there is a separate plagiarism policies video on Canvas. And let me go ahead and show you the Canvas page really quickly. So this is what our Canvas page looks like. Make sure you're looking at the Canvas page from either the Home button here or the Modules button. The course is organized into modules, and if you're not looking at the modules, you might miss some of the important information. For instance, the discussion one, if you click in here, there's not a whole lot of information at the top, just the due dates, but that's because the reading material and lecture for lesson 1 is in this reading and links 1. And in this reading and links, you'll see my lecture. You'll see all the reading material, the slides for lesson 1. So make sure you're looking at the class in module view. At the top of the class in the Welcome to Engineering Ethics module, I have pages on all the different policies, including the plagiarism policy. I also have the assignment schedule, which we'll look at in a bit. And then there's this course overview. Read this first. This is where I give the highlights of the syllabus, including my contact information, the WebEx and Discord. Links to contact me through there, my office hours, which this semester are on Wednesday, and any other information for contacting me, and then the basic information about the class. So you can see here that each class consists of lectures with reading material and slides and a discussion forum, and your job is to write in the discussion forum what you learn in the lectures and slides, write about what you learn. I'm going to go over all of the assignments in details, but I just want to quickly start with looking at the assignment schedule so you can see that my goal in the organization of this class is to try to make it as regular and predictable as possible, the structure of the class, so that way you can really focus on the assignments and things won't sort of catch you from left field. So this semester, here's the schedule, and these assignments in bold are the ones that have due dates attached. So this first week on Friday, you have your introductions posted. Of course, the schedule might be different for other semesters, so make sure you check your schedule on Canvas for updated information. But what I want to show you here is just the overall schedule for the class. You can see that you have a post due every Friday night, every week, one for each lesson. And then you also have these replies and the plagiarism check due on Tuesdays. So posts due on Fridays, replies and plagiarism checks due on the Tuesday after the reply. So notice here's the post for post 3 due on this Friday, and then the replies and plagiarism check for post 3 are due the following Tuesday. And this pattern of posts on Tuesdays, replies and plagiarism check on, posts on Fridays and replies and plagiarism check on Tuesdays continues the entire semester. The only small change to this schedule is in lessons 10 and 11, you have your research project, so the posts that you'll be writing will be a little bit of a different format, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And then at the end of the semester, you'll have an ethics report due. But apart from that, the schedule should be pretty regular. I'm going to go into the assignment structure in detail, and I'll be giving a lot of details, but I don't want to have all of these details obscure the fact that the organization of the course is supposed to be pretty simple to navigate. So let me go ahead and say a little bit more about the course structure. So again, there are 15 lessons this semester, and each lesson consists of a lecture, lecture video and slides, and then a whole collection of readings. Your job is to go through the readings, watch the lecture, go through the slides, and then write in the discussion forum a post of your own and a couple of replies, and then submit the whole thing to a plagiarism check when you're done. There are a couple of additional assignments. There are 3 extended posts, which I will talk about in a bit. There's also a research project, as I said, in lessons 10 and 11. You will have 2 presentation assignments this semester, and then the ethics report at the end of the semester. There's a good deal of work in this class, both writing and reading, and engagement on the discussion forums. You should expect to spend at least 5 hours a week on this course to get a decent grade. If you're looking for an A, maybe 7 or more hours a week on this course. So make sure you put the time into this course to do well. Okay, let me go through the assignment details in a little bit more. With a little more resolution. So each weekly post should be about a page long. This is about 350 words, or about 4 minutes of video. And let me just say here at the top that you will be doing a lot of writing in this class, but this is not a writing-focused class, and I will not be grading you on your writing abilities. I'm not going to be looking at grammar or spelling and giving corrections along these lines. I know a lot of students who take this class are not native English speakers, and some of you might feel uncomfortable writing long essays. As engineers, it's not something that you tend to do a whole lot, so you might feel uncomfortable. And I just want to deflate some of these worries a little bit. This is not a writing class. Your essays here are meant to show your engagement with the readings and with the lesson themes and with your peers in class. And as long as it shows engagement, as long as it's clear enough to understand what you're saying and your point, then that's fine. My focus in this class is really on the content of your essays, that you're engaged with the material and in the discussions. So to those ends, you can write about any topics you want. For most of the lessons, there's no explicit writing prompt. I'm not asking you any particular question that you have to answer or writing prompt that you have to address. You can really write about anything that interests you and is relevant to the lesson themes. Show in your posts that you are engaging the lectures and readings, but otherwise, it's really up to you to explore your own interests and ideas as we go through the material here. These, and I'll say a little bit more about what to write about, but these weekly posts are due on Fridays at midnight, 11:59 p.m. There's a schedule on Canvas, and I'll say a little bit more about those due dates also. But weekly posts are 30 points a lesson, and you are also responsible for 2 replies to other students, so you should write your own post, and then you should look at other students' posts, read a few of them, and maybe write a couple of replies. The replies should be about a paragraph in length, or about 150 words. And you're responsible for 2 of them, respond to 2 different students. You can respond to students who are replying to you, but remember that the goal of this assignment is to engage other students. So don't just talk about your own stuff. As I said earlier, the replies are due on Tuesday after the lesson, again at midnight. And replies are 10 points each, or 20 points per lesson. So overall, lessons are worth 50 points. You turn in your posts on Fridays and your replies on Tuesdays, and also on Tuesdays when you turn in your replies, I'm also asking that you turn in the plagiarism check. The plagiarism check is just a Word document, a .x file using Google Docs or whatever, where you include your entire lesson post and both your replies. Canvas is currently not set up to do the plagiarism check automatically in the discussion forum, so I have to ask you to submit it again in order to do the plagiarism check. And turn that in by midnight. Turning in the plagiarism check for your assignments is a condition for getting grades on those assignments. If you don't have a plagiarism check, then you won't earn a grade. And you must submit your posts and replies to both the plagiarism check assignment and to the discussion forum so that we can talk about it. Only the discussion forums are graded, so the plagiarism check itself isn't worth any points, but if you don't turn it in, you don't get points on the assignment. So make sure you get those plagiarism checks in. So again, what can you write about? Really, you can write about anything that interests you, anything that motivates you to write for 350 words on the lesson themes and readings. If you look at Canvas, you can see that for each lesson, I actually have several, sometimes 7 or 10 or even more readings per lesson. You're not responsible for going through all of those readings. It would probably be very hard to go through all those readings for the lesson. And this is what the lectures are for. The lectures are to introduce the lesson themes and to show how the different readings might relate to those themes. Your goal is not to read all of the assignments, all of the readings very carefully. I'm not going to quiz you on any of the readings. Instead, your job is to watch the lecture and go through enough of the readings that you have some idea of what to write about. Something that interests you and that you think is worth noting, something that you want to contribute to the discussion that we're having on the discussion boards. Especially look for things that you think might be relevant to your own career path. This is a sort of professional ethics course, so we're thinking about our future careers, and look for situations in the readings that you might plausibly find yourself in the future, and think about what you would do in those situations. You can also elaborate on any of the issues or themes or ideas that come up in the lectures or the discussions. You can do original research to bring in other perspectives to our discussion. It's also very appropriate to be writing these posts in first person, so you can use I. You can talk about your own views and opinions. In fact, I would encourage you to talk about your own views and opinions, to reflect on your own experiences. Maybe you have work experience where some ethical situation happened, and you want to talk about your experience there and what you did or maybe what you didn't do. So really anything that shows that you're engaged with the lesson readings and the themes and the discussion will earn credit on these assignments. Here's the grading rubric for the posts and replies. You can see this again on Canvas. So posts are worth 30 points, and each of the replies is worth 10 points. And let me say something about the grading policy real quick. So the minimum requirements for the posts are 350 words on the lesson themes and readings. If you meet those minimum requirements, then you get the minimum passing grade here, which is the 25 out of 30 points. 25 out of 30 points is around a B. And if you consistently meet 25 out of 30 points over the course of the semester, you're on track for a B grade in the class. So I know a lot of students are taking this class, and they really just want to put in enough effort to get a decent grade. And if you're meeting those 25 points per post, you're on track for a decent grade. If you want the A grade, though, if you want better than a B, then you really have to go beyond these minimum requirements. Longer word count, maybe at least 400 words. Deeper engagement with the readings, maybe connecting across multiple readings, maybe bringing in original research. Anything that shows me beyond the minimal effort on these posts will get more points, up to 30 points. Again, if you're only getting the 25 points, you shouldn't worry too much. This is still well on track for a good grade in class, but you'll need to show a little bit more effort to get the A. And same thing for the replies. The reply requirements are 150 words. If you meet those minimum requirements, you'll get a B. 8 out of 10, which is a V. And if you want more than the B grade, then you want to make those comments a little bit longer, maybe 200 words minimum, and more engaged with your peers and with the readings and lesson themes. Okay, so that's the basic requirement, and for most of the class you are just doing these weekly posts and replies on a regular schedule. There are a couple of additional assignments, as I mentioned earlier. One of these assignments are the extended posts. So the normal engagement is 350 words, or about 1 page, but for any 3 of the posts of your choosing, except lessons 7, which are on ethical codes and isn't really appropriate, and lessons 10 and 11, which is your research project, and that's a separate assignment. But for any of the other lessons of your choosing, I would like you to write an extended post. By an extended post, I just mean a longer and more engaged version of the essays. So my idea here is that maybe some of the lessons really capture your interest and attention and really motivate you to write more, and others not so much. I have in the past required students write longer essays for every one of the assignments, but now I have most of the assignments are just a 1 page. But for 3 of the assignments, you have to do this 700 word. 700 words is about 2.5 pages, or 7 minutes of audio or video. In these extended posts, you should more deeply engage the readings, the lesson themes. Maybe this is a good place to do independent research, and just in general put in more effort into the writing, into the editing and presentation. These extended posts are graded on the same rubric as the normal posts during the semester. So when you write an extended post, you don't get the extra credit for that right away. Instead, everything's graded on the same normal rubric. But then at the end of the semester, I have an additional assignment called the ethics report. In the ethics report, I want you to assemble your best writing from the semester. So your 3 extended posts and your research project, and any other writing from the semester that you think reflects well on your effort And then for the ethics report at the end of the semester, I want you to write a little reflection essay to accompany these writing samples, and sort of put that all in a document and then submit that as your ethics report. So it's important by the time we get to that ethics report that you've already written these 3 extended posts. So I'm not going to remind you on a regular basis to do the extended posts. You just need to make sure that you do them. Let me also just quickly say about the 700 words or 7 minutes of audio video, and I should come back here. Same thing for the discussion forum. I say 350 words or 4 minutes of audio video. Because this is not a writing class, you don't have to actually write out an essay for the weekly post. If you feel more comfortable talking directly to the camera, or just recording an audio of you speaking to your microphone, the audio or video essays will count the same as a written essay. So if you feel more comfortable with the camera and you know how to deal with the recording software and so on, and you would rather just record audio essays or video essays for your weekly post, that's fine. They will be graded by the same rubric. Make sure that when you upload your videos or audio to Canvas that it's embedded in the post so that people can just click the play button and hear you talk. And the audio video essays would be graded on the same rubric. You cannot do the replies in audio video, so the replies should be written out, but you can do the posts in audio video, and same thing with the extended posts. If you just do a longer audio video essay for the extended posts, that's fine. All right. For these extended posts, you can just write a longer essay of the sort that you usually do, but I'm also offering a couple of different styles that you might want to write in. So for instance, if you want to write your extended post as an encyclopedia article where you pick some important term or theory or figure from that lesson's readings and themes, and you want to write a sort of encyclopedia style article where you define the term and give it a thorough analysis, and then maybe even a literature review to point to some important resources for understanding the idea further. This would be appropriate for an extended post, an encyclopedia article. You can also write an argumentative essay, sort of take a stand on a controversial issue. You can try to answer a question. Maybe there's a common question that comes up in the discussions, or that you think a lot of people will relate to, and you try to give a good answer to that question. I also have trace a thread as a style. Trace a thread is like a scholarly style where you try to connect and put in dialogue multiple of the readings and give a good textual analysis of what's going on in these readings. You will have a case study for the research project, but case studies are sometimes fun, and if you want to write more case studies on some of the cases that come up in the readings and lesson themes, that's great. And again, you're always welcome to share your own experiences. If you have work experience, or if you have some other personal connection to some of the issues or examples, cases, or the lesson themes, please share your experiences in the discussion forum. So again, these are styles that you might decide to write your extended posts in. Maybe a normal one-page post is a little too short for these styles to really work, but for the extended posts, maybe you can pick these styles. This is optional. You don't have to do this. This is just a suggestion to help motivate the longer essay format. Also, maybe to add a little bit of diversity to the discussion forum, so that there's a sort of different stylistic approaches in the discussion forum. Maybe that would make for more interesting discussions. You don't have to do this, though. If you want to write just a standard essay, that's fine. I will say, try not to write all of your extended posts in the same style. Like, don't make 3 arguments. I'm suggesting, we'll see if it's a problem, I'm suggesting that you no more than 2 of your extended posts are in the same style. So if 2 of your extended posts are arguments, then maybe the 3rd one should be something else. An encyclopedia article or something. This is just my, again, attempt to encourage people to sort of diversify their writing styles. We'll see how this works. This is a new assignment for this spring 2022 semester, so we'll see how well it works. I'm always open to feedback as you're working through this. Okay, so those are the posts, replies, plagiarism check, and all the discussion forum stuff, and the extended posts. We have a couple of other assignments to talk about. The big other assignment is the research project. The research project takes place in lessons 10 and 11. So this is after spring break, towards the middle of the semester. In lessons 10 and 11, I'm asking you to pick your own historical case relevant to engineering ethics or your own career path if you're not an engineer. Pick something that you're interested in that you think is relevant to our discussion, that has some good ethical issues being raised, and that you can find good resources to do research on your case. You can pick any case. It has to be a real case. It can't be just a hypothetical case. And it should be after World War II, post-1950s. So I don't want to see case studies on the Titanic or the Boston molasses flood. Not that those cases aren't interesting, but they're not particularly relevant to contemporary engineering practice or the sort of ethical situations that you might find yourself in the future. So pick a recent case relevant to your own career path and to contemporary engineering ethics. Only one case. We're only doing one of these case studies, but we're breaking the case study into two parts. So in lesson 10, I want you to just talk about what happened in the case, a sort of fact-finding mission. Who was involved, what happened, what were the consequences. So this is basically to introduce your case to the group. And then in lesson 11, I want you to give an ethical analysis of that same case. So once you've presented the facts of the case, and then you sort of talk about the ethics, who's responsible for what happened, how do we hold them responsible, how do we hold them accountable, how do we prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future, these sorts of things for the ethical analysis. So over the course of this research project, I also want you to do scholarly research, so I don't want you to just look at the Wikipedia article or the history.com article on the case. I want you to actually do some scholarly research, look at what some of the scholarly sources are saying about the case, or maybe find some good journalistic sources. But look for scholarly sources on these cases. I'll talk more about how the research project goes. And then at least 4 different sources, and then I want you to prepare an annotated bibliography for the research project. 4 sources over the course of the whole project, so I'm asking for 2 of them to be turned in for lesson 10 and the other 2 for lesson 11. I also want these research project essays to be on the longer side, the extended post length, so 700 words minimum for each lesson, and that's 1,400 words total for the entire project. So 700 words for lesson 10 and another 700 words for lesson 11. These research project assignments are worth twice as much as a normal assignment. They're worth 600 points. The essay is worth 60 points instead of 30 points for a normal post. So this is a substantial part of your grade, 200 points for the whole project. It's almost 20% of your grade for the course. So make sure you do this research project and put some effort into it. Alongside the research project, I'm also asking that you do a presentation on your research project. This presentation can be pretty short, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to have a huge slide deck, but maybe a picture or 2 would be nice. For students who are in live class sessions, where we're actually meeting in a classroom or on WebEx on a schedule, the presentation should be given in class. But if you're an online-only student, if you're in one of the online-only sections, you should record your research presentation and then upload it to the appropriate thread on Canvas, and that's how you'll get credit for this assignment. You can record it in video, or you can just record the audio over PowerPoint slides. Either way is fine, but some presentation of your research project. This is one of the presentation requirements. It's worth 50 points for the research project in lessons 10 and 11, and it's due at the end of the lesson 11 week for online students. The other presentation requirement is a lesson presentation. So for one of the content lessons for the class, not including lessons 10 and 11, I want you to pick one of the lessons and present on the material from that lesson, present on the lesson themes, maybe also pick some of the readings to go through in some detail. Your lesson presentation should be a little bit longer and more in depth, 10 minutes. If you're in a live class, you might also want to make some time for Q&A afterwards. You can really do whatever you want to show that you're engaged with the lesson themes and readings, draw connections between the readings, focus on things that maybe I didn't focus on very much in my lectures. You can do this lesson presentation individually or in pairs. If you are in pairs, you might want to add 10 minutes to the presentation length. But if you're doing individually, 10 minutes is fine. And you should sign up, everyone should sign up for the lesson presentation on the schedule on Canvas. If you're in a live class, you'll be doing the presentations live in class. And there's a schedule for you to sign up for those presentations. But if you're in an online-only class, I'm still dividing up the lessons among the students, so you want to sign up for a particular lesson to complete. More details about the assignment due dates and so on are all on Canvas. So again, there are two presentation requirements. One research presentation for the research project in lessons 10 and 11, and then one other 10-minute presentation for one of the lessons on Canvas. And that's basically the entire course. So we can calculate the grades from this. So each post is worth 30 points and each reply is worth 10 points, and there's 2 of them per lesson. So each lesson is worth 50 points. Lessons 10 and 11, the research projects, are worth 100 points. Again, 60 points per post. You still have 2 replies at 10 points each, and then 20 points for the annotated bibliography in both lessons. So that's 100 points. So twice as much as a normal post. And that all factors in to your final grade as follows. Your introduction post on Canvas is worth 20 points. We have 12 lessons at 50 points each, so that's 600 points for the discussion forums, and then the research projects are another 200 points. So that's 800 points overall for those discussion forum posts and replies. And then your presentation, which is worth 200 points. Your 2 presentations, your lesson presentation is 150 points, and your research presentation is worth 50 points. And then the ethics report at the end of the semester is 100 points. That ethics report is 10% of your grade. A lot of students, because it's week 15, it's the final lesson of the class, and it's just compiling other assignments that you've already done. A lot of students just forget about it or skip it, but it's 10% of your grade. If you don't do the ethics report, you're not eligible for the A grades anymore. So that all adds up to 1,120 points. So I guess it's a little bit less than 10% of your grade. 1,120 points overall for the class. That's not including any extra credit assignments, which I'll talk about in just a second. 1,120 points overall for all of these assignments. And that grade breaks down as follows: 90% for an A. So you need at least 1,005 points for an A. 85% for a B+, 80% for a B, 75% for a C+, 65% for a C. So the bottom barrier of the C's moved down a little bit. It's a little bit easier to get a C. And then the D's at 50%. Anything less than 50% is a failing grade. I should say here, if you've been watching up to this point, I can give you a little hint. So all of the assignments are required in class. All 12 lessons are a requirement. But each lesson is worth 50 points. And if you look at the total points versus the grade scale, you can see that there's about 115 points between the lowest A and the total grade in class. In other words, in theory, you could lose 115 points in class and still get an A. And if each lesson is worth 50 points, that means that if you were to miss a lesson, which is not ideal, of course, but if you were to miss a lesson, that still keeps you within the A range, assuming you get A's on all the rest of your assignments. If you still do get perfect grades on all of your assignments, but you miss one lesson, you're still within this A range. You can think about this as there's about 115 points of flexibility. So if you turn in some assignments late or you miss a reply here or there, it's not the end of the world. You really want to be looking at this 115 point boundary and then where the thresholds are after that. Another thing to say about this is that on Canvas grades, the default presentation of the grades is the grade that you have out of the assignments that you've submitted. So if you're getting 80% on all of your assignments, the grade on Canvas will say 80%, which is useful. Of the assignments you've turned in, you've gotten 80%. But if you've only turned in 10% of the assignments, if you've only turned in like 3 assignments out of 15 and you got 80% on all of them, then the Canvas grade will still say that you have an 80%, that you have a B in the class, when in fact you don't have very many points at all, and you might even be failing the class. So make sure when you're looking at the grades on Canvas that you're looking at your point total and not just the grade that you got of the assignments completed. Your final grade will be calculated as a point total of the total points completed in class. So if Canvas says that you have an A, but you have less than 800 points, that's because Canvas is not telling you your absolute grade, is telling you the grade that you've received on the assignments that you've submitted. Okay. So that's the grading in the class. There's a couple more policies to talk about that are worth talking about here. One is the late policy. So a lot of the class is discussion-based, that we're having a coherent discussion in class, and that means you need to be having that discussion with us. And so one of the biggest ways that students lose points in class is by turning in assignments late. The penalty isn't huge, but it's substantial, especially if you're consistently late on assignments. It can add up pretty quickly, but I take 10 points off the posts and 5 points off the replies if they're turned in after the deadlines for 1 week. So this is how my late policy works. It's a little bit strict, so just be aware of this. But if you miss the deadline, you have 1 week to turn in the assignment late and earn the late credit with the late penalty. After 1 week after the deadline, then that assignment is no longer eligible for submission. So this is designed to keep us all working on the same schedule and the same lessons. If you miss a lesson, you have a little bit of time to make it up. But if you don't meet that late penalty period, then you don't then you won't get credit on that assignment. So watch those deadlines. Try to keep up with the class. I will say the late penalty is pretty severe, but I'm not as strict about the exact late time. The assignments are due in Canvas at midnight at 11:59 p.m. But I'm going to allow something like a 30-minute grace period. If you turn it in something in at 12:15, I won't mark it as late. If you turn something in at like 2:30 a.m., then I probably will mark that as late. And remember, the late penalty extends for an entire week, so staying up till 2:30 is no better than just going to sleep and doing it the next day. So this is designed to encourage you to not stay up until 2:30 a.m. to complete these posts. If it's getting more significantly past midnight, then you should just go to sleep and complete the assignment the next day. You'll earn the same credit. The presentations are also graded late if they're submitted past the deadlines. There are exceptions to the late policy, of course, especially in COVID times. We have to be flexible, and I want to be flexible. And if you're having issues, please just get in contact with me. Send me a message on Discord or by email, and we'll work something out. But here's my general approach to these policies. This is more or less the policies that I had before COVID, so I might be a little more flexible afterwards. But just talk to me. But the late policy is that if there's a planned event, if there's some event that you know you're going to be involved with that will prevent you from completing the assignments on time. For instance, if you're going off to an academic conference, if you have National Guard duty and you get called in for Guard duty, if you're an athlete and you go off to some away sporting event, sometimes that interferes with your ability to do the assignments, but these are the kinds of things that you will know in advance. Maybe National Guard duty you won't know exactly in advance. I don't know how National Guard works. But if you know that something's coming up, let me know ahead of time, really at least 48 hours ahead of time. These are scheduled events, so you should know weeks ahead of these assignment due dates when you might need an extension. If you contact me a couple of days ahead of time for an extension on these assignments, I will be sympathetic, but you have to do that ahead of time. If you're messaging me on Friday at 5 p.m. for assignments that are due at midnight on Friday, I'm not going to give extensions in those circumstances, probably because I'm just not going to be available at 5 p.m. on Friday to even recognize the need for extension. So if you know that something's coming up, don't wait till the last minute. Let me know ahead of time, and I will likely grant you that extension. Of course, sometimes we're late for things that we can't anticipate, for emergencies. You have to go to the hospital for whatever reason. You have to go home to family. If you're in an emergency situation, of course, deal with your emergency situation. The class is not the priority in that situation, so don't worry about getting in contact with me right away. When the emergency's over and you're ready to come back to class, what I ask students to do in these emergency situations is contact the dean. Again, after the emergency's over, after you're back in the mindset to come back to class, I ask these students to get in contact with the Dean of Students. Hopefully you were already planning on doing this. The Dean of Students office is equipped to talk to you about your situation, to provide all sorts of support for you, including contacting your professors, not just me, but all of your professors, to coordinate something about your missing work. When I get that note from the Dean of Students, then you and I can talk about how to make up the work that you're missing. In this situation, I will waive the late policy and so on. But I do like getting the note from the Dean of Students and going through the sort of administrative process, because the Dean of Students is definitely equipped to help students who need support. So if there's an emergency, this is the policy that I prefer. Okay. Maybe the slide should have been a little bit earlier, but there are extra credit assignments in this class. If you're in one of my live sections where we're scheduled to meet in the classroom or on WebEx on a regular time, then those attendance, then those class periods do get graded for attendance. Those attendance points are extra credit. So I will be taking attendance in those live classes. If you're in an online-only class and there is no regular meeting time and there is no attendance requirement, however, I usually, especially when we're meeting on WebEx, I will usually make the link to those meetings available for online-only students. If you happen to have that time free and want to show up, I will recognize that with some attendance credit. I also recognize that a lot of students are not planning for those time periods to be available and might not be able to make those class meetings. When possible, I will record the class meetings and put them on Canvas so that students who are not there can have the benefit of watching them. But if you're an online-only student, but you are attending the WebEx sessions for one of my live classes, I will give you some attendance credit also. There are 2 extra credit essays on Canvas. One is the ethics of your field, where you talk about your particular career path. For most of the class, we're talking about generic engineering ethics issues, but if your specific career path, if you're like a chemical engineer or a mechanical engineer, and there are specific ethical issues about your field that you want to talk about, that ethics of your field is appropriate for that. There's also a extra credit essay on the ethics of pandemic, of living in a global crisis, of living in a pandemic situation. Pandemics are hard, and if you've thought at all about the ethics and sort of want to vent a little bit about the situation that we're in, or the response to COVID from your peers or from the school or from the country, there's also an essay in essay opportunity. Again, these are extra credit. You don't have to write these essays, but if you want a little bit of extra credit, that's one way of getting it. Another way of getting extra credit is I collect engineering ethics memes. If you have a meme that you made or that you found online and you found funny, share those and I'll give a couple points of extra credit. The other big extra credit assignment are peer reviews. So on Canvas, after the replies and plagiarism check are due, after the assignment has been due, there opens up a peer review assignment in that same discussion forum, at the very top of the discussion forum. If you submitted your work on time, then you will get a link to a peer review assignment. The peer review assignments are for grading other people's work. You have a normal reply assignment where you're supposed to engage the content of their work, where everyone's talking about the lesson themes and readings, and students are writing essays and you're replying to those essays. Those replies should be posted directly in the discussion forum. The replies should be about the content of the lesson themes and readings. The peer review assignment is a separate assignment. It's extra credit. The peer review assignments only come available after the assignment is due, after the replies and plagiarism check have been submitted. And the goal of the peer review is not to engage on the content, but instead is to grade the assignment. So if you do a peer review, you'll be given a little rubric, and your job is to grade the assignment that you've been assigned, graded according to the rubric policies. You can leave feedback on writing or any other sort of feedback that you think is appropriate about the assignment. The peer reviews are not the appropriate place to talk about the content of the essays. If you want to engage the content of the essays, you can go back into the discussion forum and write a reply in the discussion forum, but the peer reviews are for providing feedback on the grading and writing process from other students. So the goals of the peer review are it's another avenue for peer engagement where you can talk to other students about their work in the class. It might also, if you do these peer reviews, it might give you some insight into the grading process, how the rubric works, how the rubric applies to students' posts. That might improve your own writing. It might help you improve your scores on the rubric. Also, the peer review might serve as a double check on my own grading process. So if the grades that students are getting through peer review are wildly different from my own, then I might give a double check and make sure that the grades are appropriate. Sometimes it's the case that students who are doing peer review just give other students A's, even if they don't actually meet the requirements on the rubric. So in those cases, they just ignore those grades. But In cases where the grading difference is serious, I might review the grades as a result of the peer review. Again, peer review is an entirely extra credit and optional assignment. If you complete the peer review, I give you 1 point per peer review, and there's 2 peer reviews for each lesson, and there's 26 lessons over the semester. There's 2 peer reviews per lesson, and there's 13 content lessons where you're doing peer review over the semester. So that ends up being 26 possible points for peer review. So this is another avenue of getting extra credit. If you're worried about being right on the line of a grade, then you might want to do some of these peer reviews. Finally, let me just say a quick word about plagiarism. Again, there's an entirely separate video on Canvas where I go through the plagiarism policy in detail, but plagiarism has been a big issue, and I really need to address it clearly and forcefully at the start of the class to make sure that students appreciate how big of an issue this is. So it's a fundamental part of academic integrity, and because this is an ethics class, I feel a special obligation to take plagiarism seriously. So plagiarism, as defined by the NJIT Student Code of Conduct, is any attempt to use written, oral, or graphic work which is authored or prepared by another and submitting it as one's own without appropriate credit or citation. If you're using other people's work, but you're not giving those people credit, and you're presenting that work as if it's your own work, that is plagiarism. And that includes when you take work from another source and change a few words here and there, or change the grammar of the sentence in some small way in order to avoid exact quotation. First of all, this doesn't avoid exact quotation. The plagiarism checkers are pretty good at picking this kind of thing up. But second, this isn't a way around plagiarism. Changing a few words of a sentence does not make it anything other than plagiarism. It's still plagiarism, even if you change a few words. Plagiarism, again, is when you take work done by others. So if you're using the sentence that they wrote and you're just changing a word, you're still using the sentence that they wrote. And if you're not giving them credit for that sentence, then you're plagiarizing. I have a great example on this website that goes through cases of legitimate and illegitimate paraphrase, and I go through that in the plagiarism video. I won't do that here. What I want you to know is that plagiarism has very stiff penalties. If your work is found plagiarizing on the very first offense, you will lose credit for that assignment. You cannot make up that credit. That credit is gone. And you will also lose all extra credit opportunities for the semester. So you cannot make up the points that you missed from this assignment with extra credit because your extra credit opportunities have been revoked. If it's a particularly egregious case, your case will also be sent to the Dean of Students as a warning. The Dean of Students will typically have you go through a course on plagiarism to make sure that you understand what plagiarism is and why it's an issue for academic integrity. So these are big penalties, and they happen on the first offense of plagiarism. Repeated instances of plagiarism will fail the class. I will refer you to the Dean of Students again with a recommendation to fail the class. I regularly fail students every semester for plagiarism, sometimes several students in each section. I'm not afraid of doing it. I don't really feel bad about doing it because I would feel a lot worse to give students good grades for plagiarizing in my ethics class. So don't tempt this. Please do not plagiarize in this class. How do you avoid plagiarizing? You give credit every time. So 2 things you can do. One is anytime you use any other source, give credit, give appropriate citation. Citations are usually the author's name, sometimes the page number. If you're talking about material that I made available in the lesson readings, if it's part of the reading list, you can just use the author's name, maybe a page number in parentheses after quotes, and that's fine. Make sure to put quotes around the material that you're taking from other sources, and then give it appropriate citation. If it's material that you found through independent research, like on the research project, for instance, I want you to give those full citations. For the research project, you need to do an annotated bibliography. But for the normal weekly posts, if you're using outside sources, give it a citation that makes clear at least this information: the author's name, the year, the title, and where you found it, the source. If the source is online, putting a link here is great. If it's a book, then this is going to be the publisher. If it's a journal article, then it's going to be the volume number and the issue number and so on. But this is the information that you need to be able to trace people's sources to see where they got the information. So anytime you're using material from other sources, make sure you give it an appropriate citation. But the best thing to do is just don't use material from other sources. which is not to say don't do research. You should definitely do research. You should definitely read the material from the reading list and maybe do your own independent research. But when it becomes time to write your post, put all that material aside. Just close the PowerPoints or close the PDFs and don't look at the sources while you're writing. Take notes, maybe look at your notes while you're writing, but don't look at the original sources. If you're not looking at the original sources as you're writing your post, it's almost impossible to reproduce the exact same sentence in the same grammatical structure as that original post. Right? Just writing from your own thoughts after having done the research and putting the original sources away virtually guarantees that you will not plagiarize anything. That's all it is. And the inverse of this is also true. If you have your notes, if you have the readings out as you're writing and you're looking at the readings as you're writing and maybe even looking at specific sentences and then writing those sentences down, you're going to get caught for plagiarism. It's going to be found in violation of the plagiarism policy, unless you're very careful about how you're doing your citations. So just close the PDF down and write from your own thoughts, and you will be fine. That's it. That's all I have for this course policies. There's a lot of policies in the syllabus. I know that it can be a little overwhelming or confusing. So hopefully this cleared some of the things up. I know this is also a long video, so thank you for staying to the end. If you have any questions, send me a message, an email, or a message on Discord, and I will try to do my best to respond. Good luck this semester, and I will talk to you later.